Peace and blessings. Here we are getting ready to go live for Sundays with Seba Inpu. Getting ready to make it happen for everybody. Keep it cracking, get it moving, doing the things we gotta do. This one is going into the group. Yeah. So that's what we're gonna do. Check, check, check. We're getting ready to go live here. And this is how we do. So grateful for the opportunity to be here to share with you. We have some amazing things going on. And grateful that you all are here with us to enjoy. So that's how we get down. And we are grateful that you all are here with me. All right. So we're going to get it in. Let's get it in. Boom. Splash. We're setting it up, and then we're going to go live over on the gram. And then we'll put this where it needs to be in. Hey, what's up, fam? Hope everybody's good. We got our lighting working almost perfect. So we're going to see how this works out for us today, for everybody on the different platforms. And we're going to make it happen. Here we go. Peace and blessings, everybody. Peace and blessings. Hatapu. Deeply grateful that folks are going to come on in and spend some time with a brother today. I'm glad that everyone is here. I want to say Hatapu, Hirunefed. Hope people are enjoying this wonderful first month of the Kemetic New Year. And I want to start off right at the top by sharing a brief moment of silence for a fellow martial artist, a man of character, a man of renown, and a very private man who, up until this past Friday at his passing, many people began to see and find out and slowly put together how awesome a man he was. I'm talking about our brother Sen Chadwick Boseman. So I just want to spend 10 seconds in honoring his transition. May he be continually elevated and uplifted, and may he be welcomed among the ancestors. Thank you for observing that moment of silence as we uplift our brother. Now, what I want to chat with today is, first to get a recap. This is a series of little conversations where we're covering some surface areas about the role of self-defense practitioners, martial artists, Montu artists, people who have dedicated themselves to self-defense, whether it be for just your personal self, your community, because we as self-defense practitioners are more than just individuals. We exist within groups and organizations, and we exist to serve the people and serve the community. And so what I'd like to do a little bit today, where we've talked about the different ways of the individual, how that individual connects and deals with themselves through breath, through nutrition, through some interaction with others in terms of the ways of knowing and bringing that information in. We also talked a bit about how folks connect in terms of their relationship with their body, their relationship with the subtle aspects of their body. We talked about ways to get and maintain an optimal health. And my view would be to do some sort of embodiment practice, be it Tai Chi Chuan, Qigong. Hopefully you tuned in, got an opportunity to tune in with us yesterday over on Facebook Live, where we had the opportunity to sit with Grandmaster Donald Hamby. That is still up. You can check that out on our KhASA page over on Facebook, where we got an opportunity to sit with him for an hour, roughly an hour, and talk about martial arts, talk about his history, talk about his time in the arts, his dedication. And in doing that, we talked about and touched on some wide variety of things about how the popularity shifts and ebbs and flows. And in the talking about ebbing and flowing, what I wanted to talk about was, I guess, culture and relationship. And this aspect of what we within Tai Chi Chuan and other traditional Chinese martial arts would also refer to as Wu Wei, or leaving folks alone, letting people manage their own business. Not kind of like minding your business, but not in a way where you ignore what is happening around you, but in a way where you understand your relationship to what's going on, and you're not making assumptions or, you know, projecting your own insecurities around what may or may not be happening. And for some of you, you may be drawing the connection to the conflagration and the entanglements around people's comments around our brother Chadwick Boseman and his battle. That's tangentially what this is about, but it's really more about when you are on your mission, when you have identified and are on your path, minding other folks' business is really not going to be at the top of your list. You're going to appreciate the kind of the culture of celebrity that this culture provides. But more importantly, what you're going to be able to take from it is something that we also utilize from the teachings of Ptah Hotep, which is that wisdom manifests from anywhere or from everywhere. And we want to be able to be clear-minded so that our minds are at peace, utilizing our tools. And I talked about some. We did a meditation last time we were together. We did a breathing exercise sometimes before. So I want to share with you every time that as you grow and you spend time on yourself, getting in alignment with your purpose, identifying your mission, that you agreed with the ancestors and worked with your parents and your family that for your unique gifts, that you come here and you find a way to express them. And in that expression, what you find is that you will be attracting to you like-minded folks, folks that aid you along your journey, folks that offer you support and buttress, or some that anchor you when you're too flighty and you're about to just fly off. They help you remain here. And those others who allow you to take flight when they know you've been holding on too closely to the earth. So what we want to be able to do is also, and you hear me talk in these terms, I'm going to use a metaphor. I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about animal relationships, because in the martial arts, like we talked about yesterday, there are different animals, different systems have different animals. And this is a personal challenge that I have. So I'm going to share some fun stories. Today is going to be a little more personal in some respects. I'm going to talk about some of my personal dealings with animals, wild and some domestic. So you can begin to get the picture and the vibe of our relationship with animals. And so first off, I want to say that the ancient peoples had time on their hands. So many folks now look at growing food as labor. And when you do it purely looking at food as a commodity, it is labor. However, when you're seeking to feed your family, when you're working to do with loved ones, or you know that this food that you're growing is there to provide sustenance for your community, that's a different relationship. It's not commodified. It's not something just to be bought and sold. It's that you're the pouring of yourself and the gifts that the Creator has given you into the cultivation of these plants and their fecundity, or their flourishing. The way in which they have such fruit allows you to be a husband. And I mean this regardless of gender at this point. What I mean, husband is a role. It's a function. And for years, you've heard me refer to myself, many of you that know me, as a fructifier. A fructifier is one who makes the earth productive and useful. And what I want to talk about now is that as we are cultivating our lives and building ourselves and taking the time to really know who we are cultivating a life. And in that life cultivation, folks love fruit. They love the fruit. Oh, the fruit is sweet, the fruit is bitter, it's bittersweet. What I want to spend time on is the roots, the foundation, the earth. Because that is where the work is. And most people neglect the work for the fruit. And so what I want to offer and really talk to folks about is, what is it going to take for you to make that consistent commitment to a lifestyle change that allows you to understand that when you spend time with the earth, when you're cultivating that relationship so that you have good earth, no matter what you grow, it will flourish. You don't have to worry about bugs. You don't have to worry about sickness as long as you got good air and you're working the earth properly. And I'm building the relationship here because, again, when you're working the earth, you need to understand that even if this plant grows, spirit willing, through sunlight that we don't control and through water access, which we have a little control over. But you must remember that for many folks, it was rain. It wasn't just irrigation that did this, although the Africans were masters of irrigation. What we want to look at is, even if you get an irrigation system set up, the work is in the soil. Are you irrigating the soil? Have you aerated the soil? Have you created what modern folks call biochar? I'm not going to go deep into that. I got a presentation coming up on relationships to the earth and farming and growing that I want to talk about later on, where we'll talk about tools and spirituality and self-defense systems and how that connects to the earth. But in dealing with the earth, what I want you to really consider is that the earth, we're talking about long time. We're talking about support structure. We're talking about nurturance. We're talking about a foundation, not in the literal sense, because people put the foundation on the earth when they're building. So I need you to know you got to have the right earth. It's not necessarily, you don't build on sand. So we need to understand their different properties. And we have to know where we are in order to make that space productive and useful. Fructify. It's an important word. I want to give it to you so you can look it up. Fructify. No, it sounds kind of juicy, a little nasty. It's not. But it's one of my favorite words because it dances on the lines of all those things that are cute and fun and silly. So when we talk about fructifying, now we get into the earth, there's a unique relationship that all the beings that exist share. And if you're not connected to plants and plant life and food, that you don't understand. In our last talk, we talked about this body as being its own universe. And because it's its own universe, that you have to get in great touch with it so that you can learn and know how it operates. And that's part of what got me into doing these sessions so that people could get a better understanding for their body. You can't protect something you don't understand. You're not able to keep something moving well that you don't understand, right? So we want you to have a chance to do this well. Know your body well. And we're going to talk about foundation. And we're talking about the body, we're talking about from the hips down. And so in Tai Chi Chuan, we do something that we refer to as a SAR stance. And that's a particular position that enables you to strengthen the legs. It's very good for the low waist, it's good for the hips. But the main thing I'm going to talk about is your legs, your foundation. And that's not the legs aren't the foundation. The legs are the support structures. The foundation are your feet, your toes, the ankles, the shins, the calf, the knee and thigh. All of that is the foundation in that relationship. How often do you spend talking to your foundation? How often do you spend appreciating your body, appreciating your thighs, appreciating your knees for bending and supporting you and guiding you in the right direction, allowing you to change direction when you need to? Just want you to think about these things. Because as you age, right now you may not, but if you understand self-defense systems and martial arts, the correct angle and the incorrect angle are very close to one another. And so you have an opportunity to shift that for folks. So you want to take close attention as we get into this. But now I'm going to move because now that we get the foundation, the support structure, and this works whether you're talking, which we refer to as medu nefer or good speech. You want to be able to have an appropriate foundation for your words so that when others hear you, there's no gaps. There's no misunderstanding in what you're saying. You've laid a foundation and then you've built upon that. So when people hear your words, they're able to see what you describe. And in doing that, it creates the space where there's not an argument anymore. We're sharing. We're in a discussion. I listen, I speak, you see what I build. You come around and you build back. Iron sharpens iron. What does not survive is made stronger. And we use a lot of metaphors here, so I'm not going to dance. I'm not going to spend too much more time on that. But I do want you to spend time thinking about the soil and the earth and the foundation. And the reason why is because I'm going to talk about bugs today. I'm going to talk about insects. I'm going to talk about small animals on up to some bigger animals in terms of their relationship, not just to spirituality or how they show up and you're Googling spiritual significance of this particular animal or that insect that came by. While important, I also want you to look at the biological relationship, the physical relationship. So that spend some time over this next week because we're in the middle of a magnificent fruit. We're in fig season right now here in sunny Southern California. And so you got the fig eater beetles around, you got the flies, the fruit flies and other things around. And many of us, I don't know about you, but I've crafted a relationship with the animals in my yard back there behind me in a way that, well, I'll talk about the relationship with them later, but what I want to say is that everything that exists here has a purpose, has a function, has an assignment. And so when you kill without thought, what you are doing is acting in the ways of a settler colonialist who is being in opposition to the foundations of the earth and what grows and comes out of it organically. Okay, we want to get away from this machine culture, and I recognize the irony of me talking to you about this through a machine, mediated by machines, received on your end by a machine. But the tool isn't the issue. The medium isn't the issue. The issue is how we're using it. Are these things thinking for us? Are they making decisions for us? Or are we able to sit and be clear and understand that there is a whole universe right in the soil, behind us and underneath us? And that when we plant something in the soil, most times you plant something that you will not reap the fruit of. Many of us enjoy shea butter. I need you to understand that the shea nut that we make the shea butter from, that we utilize, it takes 20 to 30 years for that tree to grow to maturity and be prepared to blossom. So the science on it is that when you plant a shade tree, you plant it for the shade that you will not receive, for the reaping of the benefits of the next generation. So that there is a relationship that we have with the soil that people don't always think about. They think about it in terms of geology and in terms of geography. You're not thinking about it in terms of the deeper relationship that this is my land, my people's blood is in this land. And not just their blood in terms of DNA, my people's sweat is in this land. I know you can't get a good view of the backyard, but I've only been in this house 24 years. But my life is behind you. It's not all beautiful, but I got placenta in the earth back here. My children, what sustained them in between realms as they came here, is part of what is sustaining the food that I grow and the things that I share. So I need you to have a very different view, because our ancestors, when you talk about land, you're not just talking about some physical space. And when you talk about foundation, you're not just talking about structure. You're talking about a relationship. And for those of you that know me, you know that I'm particular about the places I like to eat, the places I like to buy food from, and there's specific reasons why. One of them is I know where they get their food from. I know what the soil is like in these places. And I go to these folks because their soil is good. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why. Because what you're looking at, what we're talking about is good soil, good earth. And if the earth is good, anything that comes out of that earth is going to be good, regardless of what it looks like. And I want you to remember that many of us have been propagandized and trained to deal with only what has been so-called appealing to the eye. I was working with someone and I said, well, how does it taste? Well, it tastes wonderful, but it looks ugly. Don't worry about how. Are you eating it because it's pretty? Or are you eating it because it tastes good? And now we say that, some of us may have some emotion around, I got disconnected. I'm not connected right now. And I would say this, and this is why I talk about in terms of self-defense. It's not that we've ever been disconnected. It's that we haven't really, because disconnected means we're not alive. Okay? And many of us are not aware of the flow through the body, of our interconnection, of our interrelationship. So we know the issue is, how conscious are you of the connection? How intimate is the connection? So again, and that is just, you can begin today. And I would say focus the anger. If you have anger around these issues of, I'm separated, I've been disconnected. This culture has cut me off every chance I get and they haven't given me. Never expect someone that oppressed your ancestors and stole you and tried to keep you from yourself as a friend. Never look to folks that have done these things. So I don't look to them for knowledge about myself. I was grateful for the knowledge. Again, I come from farmers. I come from multiple generations of farmers and preachers and pastors. Pastor is a type of farmer. We won't get into that metaphor. Many of you that are Christian understand that metaphor of pastor, pastoral. You can look up the language on that and you can see that for you. You can get that. All right. We're always connected to the land. The thing that comes down to it is, what's our relationship like? Have we been in an abusive relationship? Can we address it differently? So people look at me sometimes and like, oh, I like your skin, I like your hair. Well, first off, I deal with the foundation. I eat right. Obviously, I love eating. I got these full cheeks. I love food. And so I want you to think about what that really means. Is that, so I took something that was passion for me And if you're on Instagram or Facebook, you'll see pictures of, you know, food, things I love to cook. I love to take pictures of things that I cook. I love beautiful food. But more important than how it looks is I care about how it tastes. And the taste that people enjoy comes from the soil and the work done with the soil beneath the foundation. What am I doing? And so, in other words, we're talking about shadow work, as some people call it, or work in the darkness, or being comfortable with these things. And so now you talk about the anger, that's where that's coming from. When I see myself in the mirror, what do I see? I come from a generation of farmers, but I also come from a next generation of folks who's like, that's hard ass work. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I'm going to college because that working in the earth stuff is, you know, I'm above that, because we have been, you know, propagandized that all work is not equal and that all work is not valuable. And we've been taught to look down. You hear the language, look down, okay? And for me, that means look to the north, okay? And so I don't need to look to the north for nothing. I look south because that's the direction that my ancestors looked. We didn't have a true north, we had a true south. Everything we worked on was south facing. I'm south facing right now, all right? I won't get too heavy into that, because then we start talking about how you understand the rotation of the earth and these other pieces. But first we want to get grounded. We want to get rooted. And in the rooting, in the grounding, what's in the soil matters, because whatever is going to be grown there transforms and extracts and has a relationship with the microbes that exist in that space. Just like you have the microflora in your intestines that actually decide what you digest and don't digest, right? So now that anger sits in your liver, messes with your stomach, alters your blood pressure and your vision. So what we do is you take that and you can go get in the soil, grab yourself a shovel, grab yourself a pick, grow yourself something. And as that anger gets released, and I know there was a brother of mine in college who we thought was this angry, just an angry black man. He was in law school, was learning everything about how we had been screwed over through the law and all these other things. And then he got into farming. And the brother's farm flourished. And he lived in the city. And I talked with him later because he was very judgmental. Other than he became a little calmer, a lot more at peace. He was like, I spent some time in the sunlight, spent some time in the soil. I spent some time learning from these plants. And I need you to understand that our ancestors and the people that work the soil, that will give you, that will give you a degree that you earn in a very different way. It is unforgiving. First time I had my collard green tree, I had these little white things that grew on it, and it was because my soil was deficient. And I knew my soil was deficient, but I wasn't using the techniques that my ancestors had given me, the techniques that they had taught me. And so when I did that, not only did I not have any bugs or anything, nothing was eating up my collard green leaves anymore, nothing. And so what I want to say is if I had just done what was given to me and followed the instructions, what was given to me, I wouldn't have had any negativity. So many of us have been given these tools from the time we were children. And we didn't want to listen to the elders. Fortunately, I listened a little earlier on a lot of different things that afforded me to be able to be at the place where I am now to share some of these things with community, with family, and with you. So in this soil, there are microbes that exist, and there's a microflora that exists there. There is a fungal relationship that exists there, so that the trees communicate with each other through the microfungi, And in many respects, to give you a modern inorganic relationship, you can look at the communication process as our telecommunication systems that we now have that are inorganic. That the trees use the micro fungi and the biome, the microbiome that exists in the soil as a way for them to communicate. Well, can you get me a little extra water? Can you share this with your roots? What's happening? What's going on? How you? And they communicate and they share with one another. This is this is cutting edge, not really cutting edge now, but it was cutting edge research. They're doing that. So they know that there's a deeper, and so now our ancestors tried to tell these folks this when they first had contact with them. But these folks didn't want to listen. They thought we was crazy. They thought we was savages. Now that they have instruments that can detect and they can see and they can posit and use their reason, their ways of knowing from their culture enabled them to say that there's communication happening here that we don't understand. And that's when so now I want to take you out of the microbiome. And so we're still working microcosm, macrocosm. And I want to now have you come into the space where we're now looking at and talking about how that soil gets in there. Because food is good when it's right because the soil is right. Just want to keep getting that back to you. The way that goes is also, if you say your family name and you're in a community or a village, you have your village, you have your community, and somebody knows somebody from your soil, it's like, oh, you birdsong? Oh, okay. I knew it was something about you, the way you carried yourself. You are like one of the bird songs that I know. Upright, dependable, reliable. Your word is your bond. Again, many of us don't understand that, and we've forgotten how important that soil is because you are the fruit of your ancestors. So if you have good character, if you are upright and forthright, and somebody helped you to understand what your mission is, and you are on mission, and you've stepped into the fullness of your purpose and your destiny, then people can very clearly see that person comes from good soil. That person was cared for well and came, and even the rose that grows out of concrete, we can see that and marvel for what it truly is and what it has overcome. So there's no anger at me being a rose that grew up out of concrete. Because the point is that you'll see behind me, there you go. See, that's a symbol. And what it's meant to do at one level is to talk about the muck that one must rise up out of as the lotus flower that rises. So most folks have issues with muddy water. I don't have issues with muddy water. I just need to rise. I just need to reach for the light from the darkness. And so that's where we want to be able to move towards. Move through the darkness, handle the challenges that it presents us, reach for the light, bloom, and here's the beauty. I don't have to bloom all the time. The lotus flower, when the sun sets, it closes up and comes on down. And then when the sun rises up, it comes out and expands into the light again. And every flower is not for the sun. You got moonflowers. Okay, so, but the point I want to make is that we're never in darkness in terms of literal darkness. And so you are meant to grow. You just have to find the appropriate light for you and the appropriate soil. And so now that we get the soil together, now that we got that happening, we know that the fruit is a product of the soil and nurturance and the role of the fructifiers. Now I want to talk about, let's say that fruit sits too long. And we were talking about my particular fig tree back here. And I see Sister Yanette may be on from Caribbean Gourmet. If you get a chance, check them out. Oh my goodness. I can't. Okay, so, but let me not, I'm about to go off. If you're in the local LA area, get you some Caribbean Gourmet. Look them up. They're here on Instagram. So beyond that, I got sidetracked. So like I said, I love food. So you see, I don't take much. So now these insects and these other bugs, they come to my figs when I leave them on the tree too long. So I've made an arrangement and where the bugs only come when I've left the fruit that's overripe. They attack the overripe fruit first, even the birds. And so there's a group of insects that when the fruit is overripe, they come and they eat that fruit that's overripe. That's beyond what humans are able to process. Additionally, when you go and if it falls to the ground, right, there's a completely different set of insects that clean or that eat that particular fig that's now overripe. And here's the piece that I want you to understand, that the plants of this planet that we eat are here for our growth and sustenance. And so when you find food that you get that's partially eaten on your lettuce leaves and the other things, what I want you to understand is that those folks don't have good soil. And they can say that it's good because it's not grown with pesticides, this, that, and the other. But if it's food for caterpillars, if it's food for the aphids and the other little bugs, it means that your soil is not doing what it needs to do. Because the bugs exist for that which is not fit for human consumption. So if you got a lot of bugs, even if you're growing at home, there's some things you want to check out with your soil. Be on it. Because if you're growing fruit and vegetables to feed bugs, that's fine if that's your thing. But if you're growing it to feed humans, pay attention to what the bugs eat, because they're telling you what you need. They're telling you that these particular vegetables need more attention because we're eating them so you don't, because it doesn't have what you need for your structure, for your sustenance, to allow you to build, for you to be able to be realigned to your purpose and your mission. So we will protect you. And so you hear me a lot of times talking about go see nature, watch nature. This is why. And real quick, I'm gonna get into this little story. So I spend a lot of time in nature because I'm a martial artist, because I practice self-defense arts. I observe nature. And nature has taught me a good number of things that I would not have learned fighting, that I would not have learned had I not been taught to be observant. And so what I'm going to share with you is a couple of quick stories. And one is, I had a dog, a wonderful dog. He was a hunting dog. And hopefully folks will grab this because I know folks love their animals. And so what I want to say is this is a personal expression. If your personal experience is different, cool. I'm not in your house. I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life. I'm offering you options, we'll call it. For me, animals don't live in my house. That includes the insects. Now, yes, there's some micro insects that come in. There's some other little tiny bugs that try to eat at my books that come in. But my goal is to not go after, I don't kill anymore. So, you know, I mean, again, what I'm in now, that's not totally true because I'll go cut my collard greens right off the bush, off the tree. I'll pick my figs, and no, I don't hear them scream. So I don't mean it in that regard. I don't mean to diminish their life essence transformed into mine. What I mean by not actively killing is not thoughtlessly, so that I ask permission from the spirit of my trees or my bushes as I take what I need for my family to provide sustenance for us. I'm conscious and intentional about what I do. And in my house, my goal is no killing. So if there are bugs in my house, I find a way to help them exit. Because they're in my house either to bring me a message or to find food. And my goal in my house is to not create an environment where they're here for food, where they're here to bring me a message and then they go. So in that regard, spiders are my friends. They protect me. They bring me the message they need, and then they go. The other insects, same thing. So we have this relationship. And the larger animals, talk about my dog, what I really want to talk about is the ducks and the geese at the park where we used to teach class. back in the pre-COVID days, and hopefully in the next few months, we'll get out and get out again in the sun and be socially distanced and try that. So, but until that happens, I'm going to share your story. So if you check our Facebook group, and even our Instagram, we had a beautiful lake. It had a little stream that ran down to a lower lake. The upper lake was at the southern portion. The lower lake is at the north. Our little stream flowed from the south to the north. Those of you that have understanding hear exactly what I'm saying. In the lake, we would have these beautiful ducks. They're migratory ducks. We had ducks that roll through from Canada. We had some that stayed year round. And we had some that visited from other parts of the world as well. We even had some swans a time or two. We have lots of abandoned turtles. But I'm not going to get into the turtles right now and the whole illegal turtle business that folks are utilizing, and people just abandon them. But again, that's a whole different relationship. What I want you to think about is what ducks do. What function do they perform? What role do they perform? In terms of community, in terms of what they do. So for us, it's a reminder they eat insects, okay? And so we're there, and ducks don't mind us. We don't mind the ducks. The hawk and the falcon in the park don't bother us. We have our space. They have their space. They share space with us. They know when we come, they give us a little room, and we're grateful that they do that. We show respect for them. Sometimes we feed, my son or one of our students will feed the ducks for appropriate things. Don't give them bread. Don't feed bread to these animals, please, to the birds, please. They need actual food. The bread has enzymes in it that, particularly for the seafowl, doesn't allow them to grow the insulation that they need when the weather gets cold. And so it really diminishes them. So if you can, don't give them bread. And if you're actually from African descended people and other things, consider the kind of bread that you eat, and what it's made from. Speaking of soy, what it's made from, teff, millet, certain grains are ours that we eat, that our bodies are made to digest. You can look into ancestral diets. It talks a bit more about that. So we're there, and my students fed, and so then we started seeing geese come in. And it's like, it's awesome. Hey, we got geese around. And so I told this one student who was fond of feeding the birds, and I got him to not feed them bread. And so said, don't feed the geese, I shared with him. And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, again, I need you to understand that each of these different animals, there's an order and a hierarchy in the relationships that they have with one another. So you have the crows that are there, the pigeons that are there, the little cute little birds. You have the grackles. You also have the little brown birds, the swallows, the sparrows, I think, whatever they are. Those I don't know. The grackles are the black birds that have little green, kind of shimmery, beautiful. Then you get the crow, ravens. And then you'll have, so at the top of this hierarchy, though, are the geese. And so what you want to understand is that if you feed the ducks are grateful. The ducks are like, hey, yes, humans bring us food. The geese, on the other hand, are territorial. And the geese look at humans as, I will allow you to be on my space as long as you are respectful, you understand our space, and you respect us. And I reminded my student not to feed the geese, because feeding the geese is like, in traditional culture, you would call it a tribute, meaning that we're grateful that you allow us to be in this space. I have brought you a tribute to honor you for allowing us to be in your space. Thank you. And that basically means that it's not a one-time thing. When you feed geese, they remember who you are. They are very intelligent. They know your smell. And so once you bring tribute, every time you come, you must bring tribute, or now you have offended them. And in this offense, they will now defend their territory. Okay, so I need you to get this part clear, because this comes into the whole martial arts self-defense story. It's kind of fun. So one particular day, I look at my student and the geese are nearby, but they're acting funny, because they were coming closer to us and they were looking at my one student. And I'm like, hey, you didn't feed the geese, did you? And he was like, oh, well, yeah, I did. It's like, I told you not to feed the geese. So now the geese are looking at us sideways because we didn't bring tribute, and we came into their space. The geese were already there when I started teaching the classes there. So now we're not bringing tribute, and they're looking at us like they are dishonoring us and they're being disrespectful and they on our land. And this dude is over here teaching classes, and his student ain't even bring us no food like last time. He didn't, where's the tribute? So one of the males was there with the females. The gander was with a couple of the geese, and he's rolling, and he looks at me, and I got to get back for this. So then he gets big. And, like I said, I spent a good deal of time with animals. And so, he was flexing, but he was about, 30, 45 feet away. So I'm thinking it's cool. All right, I'm gonna flex back. I'm not gonna let him, I'm not gonna let him just flex on me and not let me at least flex back. What's up with that? So I'm like, what's up? And then he looked. He saw how far away I was and was like, all right, it's cool, it's cool. We just said what's up to one another. And those of us growing up in LA and other urban environments in the 80s and 90s, you understand what that's like. You see somebody, like, hey, what's up? What's up? We good? We good? Okay, we good. We good. All right, all right. So I'm familiar with that kind of communication. So needless to say, we come back and we teach a class a little bit later. And I swear to you, the same gander, some other geese, but now he's 12 feet away. And I'm like, man, you're too close. And so I said to him, you're too close. We ain't getting down like that. But I forgot that last time he was the one that flexed and I responded. So what I did this time was, even though I'm closer, guess what your silly brother did? You know what I did? I'm like, what? What's up? And so I flexed on him. And he's like, what, fool? You gonna flex from me and my women and my family in my park? So he came at me and he got low and he started doing what geese do. In other words, he extended his neck and he got low and extended his wings. And he was extending his wings and he got low because he's now in defensive maneuver while he's attacking. Now, as I've said to y'all before, I'm not in the killing space. I realized when he came that I was wrong. We were too close. I puffed up on him in his space, in his park. And don't laugh too hard. And he came at me. And he came at me and he understood the nature of the ground. I was not paying attention because I was just being an arrogant human in that moment, not my normal being present of my surroundings. It was a steep hill up my back. So as he came and I turned to face him, I got to run backwards uphill and try to defend myself at the same time. Not ideal. Those of you that understand martial strategy and other folks, you hear what I'm saying. So I'm actually stepping backwards uphill to get away from the goose. And the goose is going, and this is why it's important that you understand the body, and why we went over this at the very beginning. The goose is snapping at my femoral artery. And so in terms of your femur is your thigh bone, and on the inside of the thigh. So I'll use my arm because it's basically the same, but there's, on your arm is called the brachial artery. It comes down, it's in between the bicep and the tricep. There's an artery here. And so if it was my arm, he'd be attacking along this area here where the artery is. And so if someone attacks particularly your femoral artery, you'll bleed out. So he's attacking it on both legs, exactly. So I know where he's trying to go, and I'm picking up, moving my legs, staying out of the way. He's getting closer each time, but he knows because of the steepness of the hill that I got to retreat up, that he's going to get close enough to me to be able to touch me. My fault. So he snaps and he hits my thigh. I'm going to slap my flesh. He snaps me, and we both acknowledge that he got me. Because again, we're not fighting to the death. We're just trying to address the disrespect. And then he let me loose. And then he went back to his geese. You know, he went back to, and it was cool. No, it wasn't a goose, my sister. It was a gander. It was a male goose, a gander. You know, so he made his point, and we was cool after that. Now, by cool, what I need y'all to understand is he stayed in his space, I stayed in my space because I'm still teaching my class in this park. And I did so with his permission. I know this sounds crazy, but I'm also respectful. Every time I came, if he was there, I would bow, show respect, thank you, sharing the park with us, we appreciate it. And I would go about my business. To this day, if I see him in the park, I got to pay him the proper respect before I can go about my business. Because my student did not heed the advice that I gave him, which was don't feed the damn geese, please. So it's funny, but I need you to understand that, because now we start talking about foundation and soil to bring us right back to where we were at the very beginning. So that I need you to understand that when you out wilding out as a young person, your family, in other words, the branches of the tree, the leaves of the tree, the trunk of the tree, and the foundation of the tree, you represent them as that fruit. So when you out wilding out, being yourself, trying to figure out what's happening and what's going on, people see you. Just like that goose checked me. It's like, you know that you ain't supposed to be out here wilding out, flexing on me. We was cool, and you gonna come over here, and I could have just walked on, but something possessed me to want to flex on this goose. Okay, and you know, I got gangs of stories like this from being in nature and watching the environment. I saw two birds fight. I saw a squirrel and a crow fight. So, I mean, again, you get to, when you pay attention to nature, it teaches you, one, it's very humbling, because first off, I'm telling you a story about me getting checked by a goose in a park. You know, so you got to understand, I recognize my role and my function in life. Yes, I can teach you how to be humble, because nature can humble you very quickly. And it's a good way to be able to lead yourself and travel and walk and understand, just because I know how to break down the body, I need you to understand that every animal that you come across, wherever you may be, if they have teeth, they can bite and they know where to bite. I don't care how trained their owner thinks they are. They're not 100%. That's all I'm gonna say. And I love animals, as you can tell and you can hear, but they belong where they belong, and people belong where people belong. And again, this is Inpu talking. I ain't running your house. I'm just talking about mine, mostly. So you let what works for you work for you. As they say, chew the fish, spit out the bones. Okay, but what I want you to think about is we spend too much time focused on the fruit and not enough time down deep in the earth where the real work is done. And I started off with a brief bit of silence in honoring our brother Chadwick Boseman and his transition and his journey to the West as he's elevated and will hopefully be welcomed among our ancestors. I know that he will for his work. But I really want you to think about, he's known for the work. He's not known for his fruit. And what I mean by that is he wasn't concerned about how much money he made people or the projects that he did were made. what is the impact this has on my people? He chose work that would provide shade for the emotional and mental health of our children. And in whatever art you practice, let it live in you that when we see the fruit of your trees, we know the work that you have put in and you have done. I have great passion for this work. It's also supported with compassion. I really want you to look at minding your business. I'm not saying ignore what's going on around you, but if you're minding your business, you can still see everything. But just because you got a mouth don't mean it got to be open. And I will say it this way then. I speak because I have been instructed in the craft. I sit before you today, someone who has been taught and instructed, and my observations that I share are partially mine, but not fully my own. I had the gratitude of being poured into by master after master after master, every place that I went. And I want to be able to share that with you. So that's part of the reason why we have these conversations. If folks have a couple of questions in here, I want you to get them. The goose story is a real story. That shit actually happened. I was going to do my dog, but he's too long. I may get back with him later. But I want you to understand that when people use animal metaphors, a lot of times they're wrong because they don't understand animals. Like you'll hear someone say, get your head out of the ground, get your head out of the ground. And they're talking about ostriches putting their heads in the ground. Now, I want to share this with you. The ostrich is basically found on the grasslands of Africa, on the grasslands and very near the desert portions of Africa. So I don't know how much you know about that, but what I want you to know is that there are times when water is scarce. Do I? Thank you. And so when water is scarce, the ostrich puts its head into the earth to find water, to find moisture. So we as humans, let me not say we because I'm not one of them, I understand. There are humans who are disconnected from the earth and use metaphors they don't understand. And it has been my distinct pleasure to start checking people using things that they don't understand. So that ostrich puts its head in the ground is goal-directed, life-sustaining behavior. I need you to get that. So when they start disparaging ostriches, you consider, don't put your head in the ground. It's like, thank you for acknowledging that what I'm trying to do is to sustain my life by moving in that way. Thank you. Okay? People put stuff on animals and they don't get it. Okay, and I need you to, I'm just going to go this subtle thing real quick, and then if folks in the chat on Instagram have a question related to what we chatted about today, we will. And I want to tell you that when you let other folks name your stuff, it gets to be a problem. So we have what is known in the culture as the great white shark. Really? Great white shark? Yes, it's a white shark. It's really not white. It's kind of gray, but why is you call it a great white? And I'm going to tell y'all why they call it a great white. Because when they ran into people who actually hunted and dealt with, there was this so-called fish that they kept hearing about. And we now call it, and it was known as an orca. It was also known as the great black fish. And it was rendered great respect. You know what these folks wanted to call it? They wanted to call it a killer whale. The black whale. Killer. Now, I don't know about you, but if I have a whole ocean and you put me in a swimming pool I'm probably going to be real pissed at you. And I'm probably, I hate to say it, but if you make me performing tricks and shit at some point, I'm probably going to be pissed about that and somebody might die. I need you to understand. So the other thing that I need you to think about, because we got this whole piece around that, is as a former basketball player, I'm going to say this and then I'm going to wind up, is, it's a slam dunk. It's a slam dunk, guys. If you're addressing a group of folks, hear me, folks, there's no gender in folks. It's just folks or people or y'all. See, and we won't get into the cultural pieces around it. There are no guys. There are no guys. And, I had to remember that whole shift happened about 20 years ago. And I wasn't speaking gendered language anyway, but I had a real issue with that because I got daughters. I don't want my daughters, guys, what are you talking about? I guess it's me and my daughters. There's no guys, there's no plural here, plural males here. Use speech as a gift, as a craft. Use it with mastery if you're going to use it in public. There will be people watching you. They will listen. Everywhere you go, people are watching you, particularly if you stand upright, if you are steadfast, if you are on mission, if you are in alignment with your passion and your goals that you connected with the ancestors about to come to this planet. What I want you to remember is that people will look at you as the fruit and they will wonder what tree that you came from. And I'm grateful that our brother Chadwick Boseman came from a mighty tree. And I'm grateful to have also been connected to that tree. And I want to thank y'all for spending this time. Holla at me in the chat. I'll come through and try and check in with y'all later. Peace, Hatep, Ankh, Uja, Seneb, life, health, and strength. See y'all next week. Hope all is well. Enjoy this Virgo season. Hatepu. All right, y'all, I'm coming. Let me finish up this little piece here in terms of what we're gonna finalize it as, and then we're gonna get right on back to you so we could finish up and then break it down for the day, okay? Hope that all is well. Hopefully that worked out for y'all over there on what we got going. Didn't have a chance to really get into the fact that we're gonna be doing some work in partnership with the intersection. But if you do have a chance, it's in the group. It's on the group page, not in the group, but it's on the page. Check out the talk that I did with Grandmaster Hamby. And also check out the talk I did with the Sister Masters and on Black August and women doing the work. So give me a couple of seconds. Let's see. Yes. All right, y'all. Appreciate your quiet. This is going into Liberation Tools. And I'm going to post that. That is now posting. All right, fam. So I really trust that everyone is well and that you have had hopefully an amazing weekend with us and had an opportunity to get your training in, to not only get your training in, but to be ready for us coming up, to be ready for us as we start our September session on this Thursday, September 3rd, so that you'll have opportunity to be ready for us and that your ASAR stance is at 10 minutes, because you are really limiting your ability to move forward easily and properly if your ASAR stance is not currently at 10 minutes. I really, really need you to know that that is of, the utmost importance, that you get yourself to 10 minutes at least. It's going to change your life. It's going to shift your perspective. And hopefully, and this is just me, hopefully, you will begin to see just how important a ASAR stance can be in terms of what we talked about today, which was your foundation. Establishing your root, using a tool to ground and center you, that is what our ASAR stance is for. So I thank you for your participation, for your viewing. I'll check out the group and see if there are questions that you all have had. So that way it'll give me an opportunity to check in with you in the group. Thank you so much. I really love your support. Want you to stay tuned. We got the fast coming up, so we're going to have conversations on that. And I'll talk to you all soon. Those of you, this is kind of the behind the scenes, including the whole event. Eventually, this is going to live probably on YouTube. So I do thank you for listening and checking us out. I really want you to get that 10 minutes in a ASAR stance. The goal is 20, but with where we are right now in the practice, 10 minutes is acceptable. If you're doing 20 minutes, then we can start really talking about what it is you got going and working and really get that meditation moving. Hatepu Ankh Uja Seneb.